Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you are all staying healthy and safe. Welcome to our monthly Ed Leadership Sims webinar for our clients. Today, we're going to help you with the best practices for delivering our simulations in a remote manner, and we're going to utilize our Navigating the Politics of Equity-Based Budgeting simulation. Most of you know our host, Dr. David Jong, by now, as he's been kind enough to lead our discussions the last several months. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Dr. DeYoung.
All right. I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad that you're here as well, and I hope all of you are safe and your families are safe as well. These are certainly unprecedented times. Today, we're going to go through a quick introduction, talk about navigating the politics of equity-based budgeting, which is the title of the simulation that we're going to go through. I'm going to share with you the most important things I've learned about facilitating simulations fully online, and I'm very excited about that. And we are going to go through like actually experiencing a simulation. So I'm glad that you're here with us today. So about 4.5 years ago, I stumbled upon these simulations at a conference, a UCEA conference in San Diego, and I have been an early adopter of these simulations, and since then I've facilitated these hundreds of times to thousands of school leaders all over the country. So I just get to have the privilege of teaching you everything that I've learned. One great thing is that since we've had the pandemic, my opinion of the simulations has even gotten higher. I don't even know if that was possible because they work so well to facilitate online. So let's dig into this here. We chose the equity-based budgeting simulation for a few reasons, because superintendents and school leaders alike are looking at next year and they're wondering when are they going to start school, like the calendar, and they're also wondering about the budget for next year. So this is a great time to choose this simulation and talk about funding children rather than staff members, taking a hard look at the student's need, and managing all the various stakeholders that you have vying for what they think is important in the district, which is great that they do that. Now, this particular simulation covers all three of those. And we're going to be the superintendent in this simulation, and we have our concern, which you can read, and we need to decide, is it student safety that's our top priority? Is it curriculum and early literacy? Should that be our priority for budgeting? Is it training for teachers, culturally responsive training? Is it expanding the AP enrollment for our students? And the reality of any superintendent is all of those are important, but we have to decide how to lead in an equity-based manner. The number one question that people ask me when facilitating simulations online, they say, should I use Zoom or GoToMeeting? And the good news is you can use both of those. So today we're going to use GoToMeeting. I'm going to show you how to do that, and I'm also going to teach you how to do it via Zoom. Here's what I found in Zoom. It's easy to navigate. You can send one link, and then you have breakout rooms and polls. And it's very easy to set up your breakout rooms and your polls. If I were you, I would just do a Google search for how to set up breakout rooms in Zoom. It's a 3-minute video. I watched it a long time ago, and I thought that was incredibly easy. Same thing with polls, because when you get to every simulation begins with context, and then you have your decision points, and a great way to handle those decision points is via a poll. So I'm going to teach you how to do that. In Zoom, now I took some screenshots of my computer. What you do is you click on the settings, which is on the left-hand side of your screen. You see that blue tab. And after you go into your settings, you scroll way down and you go to breakout room, and you just toggle that switch on. It's as simple as that. And then what happens is when you come up with your Zoom screen and you have like that green arrow pointing up at the bottom of your Zoom screen that we've all been staring at for hours over the last 6 weeks. When you toggle that breakout room switch on, you have another option below that says breakout room. I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at how easy that is. Now, while you're in that same section, you should set up your polls, and all you do is toggle that switch on as well with polls. If any of this is going too fast for you, or if you want a slower video to watch, just do a Google search. How do I set up polls in Zoom? It takes you right there. And also, with what you'll find out in that video is after you've toggled on your polls, you click on meetings and go to your personal meeting room, and then you can create your poll questions by scrolling down. One thing that you'll see that I created 9 polls in my Zoom rooms just to make sure that I covered all the 9 decision points, if that's how many that simulation had. And what I realized is I only use 1 poll. So you use the same poll question, which option seems best to you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just keep reusing that poll. It's very easy. Now we're going to switch gears to GoToMeeting. I've also found that GoToMeeting is very easy to navigate, and I love those invitations and automatic reminders that go out to you. That's probably why you're here today, which is awesome. And they also have features similar to Zoom. Now today, when we use the GoToMeeting webinar, you'll see this control panel in front of you. So since we have a lot of people on this webinar, we have people muted. And if you have questions, you can raise your hand by clicking on the top or the hand arrow icon, and also ask questions. You can chat or ask questions through that feature as well. So we'll be doing that within the simulation. Now, before we dive into this simulation, this is what I have found works really well in how I frame up the simulation to make sure that it's a safe environment. I'll say, we're going to spend the next hour of our time going through a simulation. This is a risk-free environment, and it's meant to manufacture and accelerate an experience for you, and you can take that back to your building or your school district and bring the experience to you. So next, whenever I'm facilitating simulations synchronously, I always make sure that I use polls and I use responses, whether you type that in or whether you use breakout rooms at each of the decision points. I found that I've done different ways to do that, and I found that it works really well. Also, if there's ever any text on your screen, just read it out loud. For too long, I assumed that people had good eyesight and they processed as quickly as I did and at the same speed. And I just learned, you know what, just read it if there's any text on your screen. All right, now I want to tell you about an experiment that I've been doing for 4 years. So I have used simulation in my fully online course. It's called a Superintendent Capstone course. And my school leaders in my class have loved it. In fact, it's one of the reasons I got Teacher of the Year in my School of Education as a professor. So what I do is I choose 1 simulation per module, and the school leaders in my class, they work with Ed Leadership Sims. They pay about the price of a textbook for a temporary subscription, and they experience the simulation on their own, and then they make a post to the discussion board. And when they make that post, what I have found is they'll say, oh, I went through the simulation 4 or 5 or 6 times because I wanted to experience all the different scenarios in the simulation and all the different choices and navigate through it. And I think to myself, like, these graduate students that are in our classes right now, you know, they are burned out and tired from their jobs and their family responsibilities. And if they're going through it 4 times just for learning, I know that we have them hooked. So you'll read that a lot if you use these in your courses. Also, one of the issues that we had in our program was that our school leaders weren't doing a very good job of finding peer-reviewed sources on their own. So what we did is we added that as an option in our class where they find a peer-reviewed journal article, they attach it to their post, and that's what they use to make their citation in their post, and it's worked out really well for 4 years in a row for me. And then they do two replies to their peers. So I could go on and on about the comments that people are making about this, and basically they're saying two things, two major themes that I've noticed. They're saying, I loved it because I got experiences that I haven't had as a school leader before. And that's fantastic. And the second thing that they're saying is, I have experienced a situation kind of like these, and it kind of like what happened, and it helped me reflect on my decisions that I made. And any adult learner that is making a connection between their own life experience, that's when deep learning is happening. So if you have questions about a fully online course, doing it asynchronously, give me a call, shoot me an email. I'll share everything that I'll have. I'll tell you the simulations I use, and I'll help you get started on that. I'd be happy to help with that. Now, this is an opportunity for each of you that we're going to come to at the end of our presentation. And I wanted to show that to you because we are going to come back to that. All right, without further ado, I'm going to switch to sharing my internet browser. Now, the good news is these simulations work well on all browsers I've found. I'm using Firefox today. So this is our website. You've probably all seen this. This has all of the simulation. It kind of gives you an overview about what each simulation is. It's a great first stop. I always have this one bookmarked as well because this site gives me all 30 of the simulations to choose from, and I chose the navigating the politics of equity-based education today. So one thing that you'll notice in these 30 is a lot of them are starting to say HTML. All of our simulations are moving to HTML. As Flash is dying, we're moving all to HTML, and it's going really well. Now, this simulation was made with PDK education partnerships. And the reason that I want to bring that up is if you are a customer right now and you are like, oh, I wish I had a simulation for this or that, come work with us. We'd be happy to help you write it and make it into a simulation that's usable for you. In fact, all 30 of them that are in our library right now were done in that same way. So this one was recently done within the last year, and we're going to begin on this. All right, we're getting into the simulation. This just tells us we can't go backwards. Just like real life, you can always go forward, only go forward.
Welcome to the first round of this simulation. You're playing the role of superintendent in a traditionally well-regarded district that is experiencing significant population shifts with a host of changing needs. Your challenge is to work with your cabinet, the school board, and a variety of stakeholders to develop a budget that will provide funding in an equitable manner. This will call for a different process than used in the past. It is a significant change that must be managed.
All right, let's keep this moving.
Click on the diamond-shaped desktop icon toward the bottom of the screen to access detailed background information in your file cabinet. It will remain available throughout the simulation.
So this gives you background information, context, and status at the outset.
While you recognize that you were hired to execute the board's vision for the district, you also bring your own values and perspective to discussions of how to best meet present and future needs. As you look ahead to the budgeting process, you recognize the need to distribute resources equitably. Does that mean lower performing schools should get the same resources as high performing schools? Or should they get more to support efforts at reducing the gap, bringing performance up and boosting average performance? The performance of Black and Latino students is of concern. You also see a growing influx of emergent bilinguals, and consider that the earlier they have access to the targeted supports they need, including adequate and rigorous literacy dual language programs, the better equipped they would be to achieve success in their learning experiences. As you lead the strategic dialogue about priorities, Deputy Superintendent Ashish Kumar is leading the effort to move to a student-focused budgeting process. As you move through the process of establishing a common vision among stakeholders and making it achievable through the budgeting process, you'll interact with various characters who seek to gain or limit influence. You'll begin meeting them as you start the simulation. Good luck. The summer has gone by quickly. You're in your office and working through your inbox, cleaning out some of the clutter, when you get several new emails. You never know who will walk into your office next, so you grab this time to catch up a bit. Email from Board Chair. Just wanted to send you a quick note to say I'm looking forward to another great year. As always, there are plenty of challenges ahead, but I'm glad we've developed a solid working relationship over these past few years to see us through the rough patches. One major challenge I see ahead of us is to work through the budget process in a way that brings the board together with your staff in harmonizing a financial plan that will serve the needs of the district and reflect the priorities of our school communities. Email from Deputy Superintendent for Operations. When you have a chance, I'd like to set up some time for us to review our budgeting process for the year, taking a look at the calendar and trying to get ahead of the curve. Let me know when you might have some time. Sooner is better than later. Email from Principal. Dear Superintendent, I am writing to express my heightened sense of urgency to secure appropriate resources for the students in my school. We will see an even greater influx of emergent bilingual students. We will require additional resources, which have, frankly, been inadequate in the past. I recognize that this email circumvents the chain of command, but it represents me pulling the alarm, so to speak. I look forward to following the budget process to see how this issue is addressed. You are treated to a quick visit by Carl Mazer, the president of Copeland Parents United, a coalition of parents from around the district.
As the year gets underway, I'd like to ask that our organization be included in the budgeting process. I speak for many of our members who feel excluded from the discussions and feel they only have an opportunity for input when it really seemed too late to have any impact. While I'm here, can I get on your schedule to talk details?
All right.
You're interrupted by your admin saying that the chief of police is here for an unscheduled visit. This is rather uncommon for the chief to arrive unannounced, so you check your schedule and see that you can accommodate a brief conversation. Your admin shows the chief into your office.
I'm hearing that many of the district schools are not feeling secure enough, especially given some of the incidents last year. I know there are people who want to see more metal detectors in all the upper schools. I don't doubt you get some community pressure to do just that. The detectors that are currently installed have increased the sense of security in those schools that have them. I'm happy to discuss security issues anytime.
After the chief leaves, you reflect on his message and make a note to speak to Ashish about it when you connect with him on scheduling time to discuss the budgeting process. You forward the principal's email to the Assistant Superintendent for Equity and Access, as well as the Chief School Improvement Officer, asking for their input. Both reply confirming the anticipated increase in emergent bilingual students, as well as acknowledging this area has been chronically underfunded. You make a note to call Carl Mazer to speak about the concerns he is hearing from within Copeland Parents United. You decide to begin getting ready for a public meeting with the Board of Education in mid-August to establish interests and priorities in preparation for the budgeting process. Which of the following will you do first to prepare for the meeting? The little blue dots on the buttons below indicate more information is available. Once you've chosen an option for your response, click the Continue button to advance.
All right. So one thing that you probably noticed as the facilitator, I didn't have to do much. I just needed to click next and take you through the simulation, which is an awesome way because these simulations take us as professors or school leaders or facilitators of professional development. They take us out of the role of like the sage on the stage and we're the guide on the side with simulations. We're all looking for these types of tools, and this is one of them. Now, what I need each one of you to do is to take out a pen or a pencil wherever you are in the United States or the world, and I want you to write down 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 based on which choice you would like to do first. So there are arguments for all of these choices, and what's going to happen right now is we're going to go over all the choices. You're going to write down what you want, and then the screen's going to disappear. It's going to be replaced with a poll, and then you click on the poll, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and then based on that, we'll go through the next step. So let's go through number 1. Contact each board member and ask them to share their interests and priorities with you in advance. This will give you some sort of the sense of the board's perspectives. Number 2, share your interests and priorities with each board member in advance of the meeting. Giving them a heads up will avoid any surprises. Number 3, ask your team to formally share their priorities with you via email. You can have these on hand for reference if needed. Number 4, review minutes and materials from last year's budget meetings. Though much has changed in a year, it's a good idea to reflect on how priorities were initiated. And number 5, schedule a time for discussion and pre-planning with the board leadership and chair of the finance committee to establish processes. This is your 3rd year in the district. While you have a good sense of the process, it is important to get in sync with others up front. All right, so take a moment because reread these, make your choice because in a couple seconds here, we are going to launch the poll. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Make your final, write it down, know which number you want, and I'm going to launch the poll. Oh, nice. Lots of votes coming in. That's incredible how fast these are coming in right now. Great. We definitely have most of the people that voted. All right, I am going to close the poll and I'm going to share the results with you so you can see what it is. So we had 60% of the people said 5, 20% said number 1, number 2 and 3 were tied with 10%. So let's go back to, I'm going to hide those results. Let's go back, number 5, establish or schedule time for discussion and pre-planning with the board leadership and chair of the finance committee to establish processes. Now, no matter which number you chose, what I would like you to say is, what did you choose and why? So if you would go to the questions option on your toolbar and just say, I chose number 1 because this, I chose number 5 because this, and add that into your the questions, and I'll be able to read them from my end. Ooh, and while you're typing that, Sharon was asking about Zoom webinar allows polls. I don't think regular Zoom does. Sharon, the answer to that question is when I log into my Zoom account, I go to my personal meeting room, and that allows me to set up polls. So I'm not sure if that's a free version that my university pays for, or if that is just Zoom just offering it all for free right now. But I'm pretty confident that you're able to do that. And if you have further questions, just give me a call. I'll be able to help you out with that. All right. Thanks for typing in and explaining why you chose the option you chose. I'll wait for you. I have facilitated this a few times. Suzanne wrote, this was an opportunity to learn more about board ideas, expectations, and concerns, as well as shape a process in advance of the meeting. Yeah, oh good. I'm glad you used the word process in there. In my leadership classes, I always say, what's more important, the process or the goal? And you can't say both. It's an old Dr. Peter Northhouse question, and it just lights the room up. But in this case, you want to go after the process. That's great. And Sharon, yep, you wrote about establishing the processes and learn in advance what they're thinking. Yep, I totally agree. All right, so now that everybody kind of sees what that feature, how it works, I'm going to keep rolling with this and keep showing you how to work this simulation using Zoom. So if you're typing something up, still go ahead and send it. I'd love to read it. This is what most people in our group chose. Let's see what plays out next.
What factors did you consider in choosing your top priority? What risks may have been involved in choosing something else instead?
Ooh.
Write your response below. It will be retrieved at the end of the simulation.
So let's take a time right there. So when you type your answer to this in the question box, especially what risks may have been involved in choosing something else instead. If you'd be willing to type that, I would love it. Good, thanks for typing some of the risks of some of the other options. And this is the point too, like if we had a lower number of attendees, or you could put people into breakout rooms and have them discuss as long as you want. I've had discussion points last up to 10, 15, 20 minutes because I didn't want people to think that I was dominating it, and they just loved to share. Oh yeah, thank you. I'm gonna add this there. People don't like sidebar meetings with people. Yep, they feel left out. I agree. You may not, Jackie, thank you. I'm gonna add yours here. You may not clearly understand the process, so you may proceed incorrectly. Excellent. We do not want to we don't want to proceed in a different way and kind of trip over ourselves. Another one. Thanks, Suzanne. Here we go. Add yours. It'd be helpful to have a frame for the process to share with the cabinet members as we discuss their highest priorities. A risk is to be surprised at the board meeting regarding their process preference. Oh yeah, any superintendent knows we don't want to be surprised by the board, and the board doesn't want to be surprised by us. It only takes a few of those instances as a superintendent to really realize what's happening. I served as a school superintendent for 8 years, and I served a school board of 12. There were times that it took up to 50% of my time, so good. All right, so keep finishing up your response, but I'm going to keep this webinar going.
You begin laying the groundwork for discussions around the process. Board members have mixed responses, some wondering why there is the need to spend time on something that is pretty much the same every year, while others are energized around the strategic discussions as well as the tactics of weighing factors within equity-based budgeting. You recognize you'll need to work with Ashish to design a few more sessions with the board, discussing the structure to be used in building an equity-based budget. Email from Elena Marquez. I wanted to re-emphasize that every day I see how critical elementary literacy can be as a foundation, how predictive it is of future success. Every day I see more opportunities for us to address it. I'll say it over and over. Elementary literacy should be our top priority. Email from Pat Branch. I support our investments in elementary literacy and want to be sure we recognize the expanded resources needed for those efforts. Let's anticipate all that goes along with a focus on elementary literacy program to maximize success. Thank you for your consideration.
All right.
In addition to the regular business items from the board meeting, the minutes reflect several items of strong interest. School security, improvements to properties, career pathways, expanded AP class enrollment, improving elementary literacy.
All excellent priorities.
Improving elementary literacy has been a passionate cause for Elena Marquez, Assistant Superintendent for Equity and Access, who is glad to see it brought up in the first public board meeting. In your cabinet meeting, however, Pat Branch, Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, notes that she considered the scope of that initiative to be much larger than previously anticipated. Disagreement among these two is frequent and no surprise, but this topic gives rise to an uncharacteristically heated exchange.
Let's see that exchange.
We need to have urgency around elementary literacy, particularly in the earlier grades. If kids aren't reading at grade level by the end of third grade, their chances of dropping out increase. Their chances of graduating go down. And their chances of going to jail become higher. They are pretty much doomed. Nothing is more important than raising literacy levels in the earlier grades.
No one cares more about literacy than I do. But the fact is that we've got a lot of competing demands. We've got issues with math. We've got issues with students not having access to higher level courses in high school. We need culturally responsive material that we'll need to train the teachers on. I agree, elementary literacy is important, but it's not the only thing.
I'm not saying it's the only thing we need. I'm saying it's the most important thing.
It will be a huge undertaking. And we don't know that we're going to get support for the board for the kind of investment that we need to make, particularly given the other needs that we have.
Oh, very good. It's good to see those exchanges.
What will you do now?
All right, so pull out your pen or pencil again, and you're going to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4 in this option. So what are we going to do now, or what are we going to do next? So here are our choices. Number 1, ask for every program to zero base their budget. Number 2, ask for a return on investment analysis or program evaluation to determine which programs are working. Number 3, have conversations with various external interest groups to understand their issues and priorities. And number 4, have conversations with principals, teachers, union representatives, etc., to gauge their priorities. All right. Go again and read all the answers. I'm going to launch my poll. I'm just itching to click on this. Now this poll right now has 5 choices, but you only need to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. We prepared it with 5 in case the simulation took a different route. So 1, 2, 3, or 4, now. You should see your poll in front of you. Oh yeah, people are replying. Ah, excellent. We have 3 different responses already. Some are climbing and some are declining. All right. I'm about to close the poll. All right. So I closed the poll. So remember, ask every program to zero-base their budget. Ask for a program evaluation to determine what's working. 3 was have conversations with external groups. And 4 was have conversations with their internal groups like principals, teachers. And the results are, number 2. 2/3 of us thought number 2 was the highest. We also had votes for number 4 and number 3. So if you'd be so kind to explain which one you chose and why, and then I can share that with the group. So go to your questions and type that in. And also, while our videos were playing, Karen shared that board member relations are crucial for a superintendent's success. I actually have a peer-reviewed journal article about superintendent stress. It was published with AASA, and that's the #1 reason why superintendents leave their position is either a rogue board member or board member relations that went sour. So no surprise there. All right, good. Presley, thanks. An analysis is necessary to know if what we are doing is effective. Yeah, how do we know what's working if we don't do an analysis, right? Choose the ROI, as I wanted that as a perspective filter when I hold conversations with internal and external stakeholders. All very good, Suzanne. So you would have that in hand before you do number 3 and number 4, right? You're meeting with external and internal. That makes great sense. Jackie feels it's important to know what the staff in the field think is important. Very good, Jackie. We, as leaders, if we're not in touch with the people that we serve and what their opinions are, how will we know how to lead? It can't just be us. Sharon said engaging stakeholders is essential to understanding different priorities. It is, right? And anybody that's been on a good team knows that when you make decisions that you get the appropriate amount of feedback, you're going to make better decisions as a leader. So I don't have time to read them all because we need to keep going on this. 2 had the highest percentage number, so that's how we're going to roll. Go ahead and keep typing away in that questions box too.
A neighboring district is reporting 3 new cases of measles, enough to qualify as an outbreak. You've already heard that one of the students had been granted a vaccination exemption, which is now the subject of intense debate.
Great. So why is that coming up? Because this is the real life. This is things that come up. Now, we could have gone 3 new cases of COVID-19, but there is a pandemic simulation in the works right now that I'm happy to tell you about as well.
As a result of asking for an ROI analysis of every program, some areas can link to student achievement and some can't, but their budgets still don't tell you much. Board members want to see the outcomes linked to results.
Sure.
You speak with Ashish about the budgeting process and need to continue the change effort with the board.
I'm getting the sense that as we move through the budgeting process, we have to figure out the best way to involve the board. I want to do all we can to ensure that you have their support to get this budget passed. I could use your guidance about how we should involve them throughout the process.
Good.
You get a call from a colleague who is now the superintendent at a neighboring district. What would you want to share about or ask about at this point in the budgeting process in order to get their perspective?
Good. So you could spend as much time with questions like this as you wanted. And what I'm going to show you is just based on the time constrictions that we have on this one, type in a few letters, we're going to keep rolling.
As the year unfolds, you find the level of time commitment you need to make to various constituencies varies. At this point in the year, Looking ahead to the equity-based budgeting process, how would you allocate your time?
Ooh, this is going to be another split vote, I predict. So pull out your pen or your pencil. We're going to go through the same thing. I'm going to launch a poll here shortly. Number one, would you spend your time and energy as an even split among board, cabinet, and the school community? Number two, half of your time and energy to the board, the other half split between the cabinet and community. Number three, half to the cabinet, the other half split between the board and community. Or number four, half to the community, the other half split between the board and the cabinet. Now, we might be splitting hairs on this question, but I really, really like this question. So get your response. 1, 2, 3, or 4. This poll is going to have 5 choices. Just choose 1, 2, 3, or 4. Go. Nice. Oh, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 already. I love that. When I facilitate these in a room on like a projector and like just a sound system, and I see that an option has 4 choices, and all 4 are chosen by the participants in the room, I just love seeing that. Because let me go down a rabbit trail a second. If you do not use polls, what happens is you'll just ask a large group, hey, what do you think of this answer? And what usually happens to me is you get one leader that comes in hard and they'll say, I think it's C. This actually happened to me, and this is how it played out, and this is what I learned from it, which is great. But what happens is everybody else in the group, they will say something like, oh, I think it was C, or I thought it was C too. And they just if they perceive that leader to be really smart, or that leader is extroverted, they just seem to go along with what they think. When you use polls, and you can use Plickers or Poll Anywhere, or have it write it down on a sticky note, or you can have card tents. I've experimented with all of those. You get situations like this, where in our group, we had all 4 of these responses out there. Now, another thing that I'm going to show you what I do is I'm not going to share with you the results on which one was number 1, which one had the highest percentage, because I want to know what you think and why you think what you think. So go ahead, go to the questions and write, I chose number 1 because, or number 2 because, and I'll read some of those for the whole group. Thanks for doing that for me, by the way. I really appreciate you taking the time to write these down. How are you going to allocate your time and your energy? Good. And thanks for taking time to write these in there. And if you're using GoToMeeting as a facilitator, what's great is you can keep a record of who is asking the questions for the school leaders that are in your class. So you actually have a record of what they asked, and you can make that a requirement if you wanted to as well. All right, Jackie says, number 2, because the board will be the party to pass the budget, they must understand the process and information. Good, great reason. If they're the decision makers, you should spend the most time with them, right, Jackie? Karen says all constituent groups are important. Losing the support of any group can derail forward progress of the district. Oh, that's good. I'm guessing you chose A because, or number 1, because you need to keep them all going in the same direction. And when you don't, any one of it can derail your process. Presley, I agree with you that splitting hairs, but in this business, it is all about perception and being diplomatic and getting work done. You have to be able to hear all. Oh, that's great, Presley. In fact, you need to genuinely be able to hear all sides, because if there is anybody in this process that feels like you're just meeting with them to get it over with, or if you're not genuinely meeting with them. I worked with a superintendent one time that he was perceived to always have his mind made up. And so people really bashed this leader, and eventually he is not a school superintendent anymore because of that. Number 3, because the cabinet should consist of the curriculum experts and who has expertise in the district's needs. This allows them more input while giving the community and board input. Oh, that's great, Sharon. Yeah, I see why you chose number 3. Bingo. Suzanne, I need to know what board members are thinking and would meet with each of them individually as well as in a group setting. I'd use cabinet and administrative council to get a pulse from the internal voices. The board will have the pulse of the community and make the final decision. I'd also meet personally with union leaders in a group and individually. That, Suzanne, I can tell that you have a lot of experience with this. That is a great response as well. You know, you could talk about, as the facilitator, you could talk about when do you want to meet with school board members individually and when do you want to bring them together for a quorum. And you could spend 5, 10, 15 minutes talking about that. What's great is that this simulation right here is like an organic way to like talk about what we need to talk about as school leaders, especially when you're tying this all back to equity-based budgeting. So I'm going to stop reading them for a moment. You can still send them in, and I'm going to share the results on what people said. So 1, 2, 3, or 4, you'll see that we have responses from all of them. And it seems like number 3 gets the highest percentage. I've facilitated this before online and in person, and this is the first time that number 3 was first. And I'm not saying that's bad or good. I just love that these things aren't always the same, right? Right here. So we have 3, half to the cabinet, the other half split between the board and the community. All right, that's how we're going to roll.
How will you ensure you are appropriately allocating your time on the priorities you have made for the year?
We just talked about that.
Email from principal. Dear Superintendent, as I have not gotten a response to my earlier message, I am writing to again express my heightened sense of urgency to secure appropriate resources for the students in my school. We are seeing an even greater influx of emergent bilingual students, which require additional resources that I expect will be inadequate as in the past.
Let me go down a rabbit trail a second. We use the word emergent bilingual in this simulation. That is an awesome term because it's not deficit based. So that's fantastic. I love it.
Email from board member Serrano. I recognize that it can be difficult to keep sight of our top priorities amid the district's shifting landscape of needs. I'd like to speak with you soon about expanding AP enrollment being a priority that we stay focused on. I'll stop by next time I'm in the building.
Ooh, I just feel that pressure from all these stakeholders like coming at me. I love it that they're advocates for their program, and I'd expect nothing less. But, you know, that's hard as a school leader to manage all of that.
The local paper runs a story recapping security failures within the district from the past 2 years. An op-ed piece questions what the district is doing to keep students and teachers safe. David Ochoa calls that evening to make sure you're aware of the story in the paper about security. He shares his frustration.
And remember, David Ochoa is called from the board chair. He's the board chairman.
I'm sorry to disturb you, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of the story in the local news media about school security. I imagine that the board will be pressured by the community and some special interest groups to push the district to invest significant resources in this issue. I'll let you go, but from my perspective, there are much more pressing issues.
After the story appears, you are called by the reporter who asks for your comment. What is your course of action?
All right, now I'm going to switch things on you because I want to model a different way of facilitating discussion questions. I was leading with like a wise superintendent in South Dakota. People considered him the best superintendent. He was retired, and what he started asking like the school leaders in our group, which answer do you not like and why? So right now, when we read these questions, I don't want you to go choose the answer that, oh, you think this is best because of this. I want which is the worst answer from your perspective, okay? So switching it up on you. Number one, write an op-ed that puts the data into the public domain and articulates your plans about security. Number two, write a memo to the board delineating all that you've done to address safety and security during your tenure. Number three, write a letter to parents in the community delineating all that you've done and all that you intend to do regarding safety. Or number four, hold a community forum on school safety. So right now, the question, the exact poll question is going to be, which option would you not choose? Okay, so I'm just flipping this on and I'm flipping the script on you. Which one would you not do? I'll launch the poll in about 5 seconds. All right, hopefully you have your number. Launch of the poll. Nice. We already have 3 answers. See how easy that was to flip the switch? And it's going to lead to a whole different type of discussion. All right, I'm going to close the poll. The numbers actually came out kind of evenly. I'm going to share the results. So we have, which one would we not choose? Number 1 was the highest, and we had votes for 2 and 4. So now we can go back to what are those? This is the one that we would not do, right? Number 1, write an op-ed that puts the data into the public domain and articulates your plans. So what we could do is we could talk about this for a long period of time, or we could, and then we'll eventually have to do a new poll that says, which one would you choose? Which always leads to a deep and rich discussion. Now, this is where I never like to go longer and take more time than of you, because I'm just thankful that you're here today. And I also, at the end of our webinars, we've had questions, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to answer questions. And I also want to share more about our teacher appreciation. So this is where we're going to actually end our simulation. Oh, I know that's brutal. I would guess we're probably 60% through it, 65% through the simulation. So there's a lot more, and it concludes a great way. We still have time to do that. So Brian, would you step in here and take it over?
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, David, for your time. I appreciate that, and everyone for attending. Mary Pat, you should be able to speak now and talk about the teacher appreciation opportunity.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks, David. That was great, as always. Hopefully the folks on the call recognize that next week is Teacher Appreciation next week. And in particular, Tuesday, May 5th is Teacher Appreciation Day. And as the parent of 3 children, I have lots of fond memories of the various Teacher Appreciation Week activities at their schools over the years. And now that my oldest is actually a high school teacher and adjusting to online teaching and the challenges that that brings, I thought that maybe most events that schools had planned for next week to thank teachers might not be possible. I'm sure there are some PTA members and school administrators that have come up with creative ways to show appreciation to their school's teachers, but my fear was that the week might go uncelebrated. So we met as a team, a management team, and we came up with an idea for our clients to provide an opportunity to recognize and thank their teachers. And that's with a contest, super simple. Just submit the names of your teacher, a teacher, administrator into the drawing, and we will pick 5 lucky winners on Teacher Appreciation Day. They're going to be random to receive $50 Amazon gift cards. So just go to our website, submit the name of the teacher, their school, their email address, so we can contact them if they're selected. And we encourage you to share this opportunity with your PTAs and other schools within your district to encourage participation in this contest. So obviously the more submissions, the better. It gives us a way to show appreciation to the faculty and staff at a time where everyone is at a distance and working their hardest to be effective in this environment. So that's just, we wanted to share that today with our customers. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thank you, Mary Pat. And if anyone doesn't have the link, just shoot me a message. You should have my email by now, and I'm happy to resend you the link. And I will also share the recorded webinar, and I'll be sure to include the teacher appreciation link one more time in there as well. So we hope you take advantage of that opportunity. We really want to thank teachers for all they're doing, especially now more than ever. Well, if anyone has any other questions, I'll hang out on the chat for a few more minutes. I see a few people, have had to leave for the 3 o'clock meeting, and I respect that. So we'll let you guys go. But if anything else comes up, just chat, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Everybody have a great day and stay nice and healthy and safe.
Sharon and Jackie, thanks for your kind words. Thanks for joining us. Chris, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully it's going well in your asynchronous format that you were talking about. Karen, thank you for your kind words. Thanks for joining us. Presley, smiled when I saw your name. Hopefully it's going well with Zoom and how you're using them in Broward County. Thanks, Suzanne. I agree. It's a powerful tool. Hybrid group or in person. That's what's great about these. I'm glad you see that. We can do these anywhere in the United States, anywhere in the world, synchronously or asynchronously. Yep. Oh yeah, Palm Beach, Presley. Yep. I'm sure you have better weather than we do here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So when Brian,
oops, sorry, David. Go ahead.
Oh, Brian sends us out too. My contact information's on there. Just give me a call via cell or send me an email as well. You don't have to ask a question right now.
Yep, looks like we've lost most people, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the webinar and let the recording start to process, and I will get this out as soon as it's ready today. It'll also be on our website, so I'll send you all that information out. And again, any questions, feel free to direct them to myself or David directly. So thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.